My people, last week Nigeria stood up and did something bold. They sent a subtle but powerful warning to Donald Trump. Impose visa restrictions on us, and you just might lose access to our critical minerals. Don't get it twisted. This isn't just diplomatic posturing. This is a line in the sand, a message to the world. If you ban us, we'll ban you right back.
Nigeria did something America never believed would happen. For years, U.S. companies quietly controlled some of the most valuable mineral sites in Africa, especially lithium, the new white gold used for electric cars, phones, and military technology. But everything changed when Nigeria made one shocking decision. A U.S. mining company arrived expecting business as usual. Instead, the Nigerian government blocked the deal completely and declared that the country's lithium would no longer be extracted for foreign profits. This wasn't just a policy change, it was a message. A message that Nigeria is tired of watching its resources leave the country while its people see little to no benefit and behind the scenes. Washington is furious. Because Nigeria holds some of the largest untapped lithium reserves in Africa, reserves America desperately needs as the global battery race heats up. So what exactly happened? Why did Nigeria slam the door on the US? And how will this decision reshape the future of Africa's resources and America's power? Stay with me, because this story is bigger than lithium. It's about a country finally taking control of its wealth and the global shockwave that followed. For decades, Nigeria's greatest weakness wasn't its lack of resources, it was that the world knew the value of those resources long before Nigerians themselves were allowed to benefit from them. Oil, gas, gold, tin, and now lithium. Generation after generation watched foreign companies arrive with big promises, big machines, and even bigger profits. But the story of lithium has become different. It has become the moment Nigeria finally drew a line in the sand. A moment when the government said no more, not this time, and that single decision sent shockwaves. From Abuja to Washington, from Wall Street to Silicon Valley. To understand the magnitude of what happened, you must first understand what lithium really is. It is not just a mineral, it is the new oil. The world's biggest companies, Tesla, Apple, Samsung, GM, Toyota, Google, all depend on lithium to power electric cars, mobile devices, laptops, batteries, satellites, drones, and military technology. Countries that control lithium will control the next industrial revolution. And it turns out Nigeria is sitting on some of the largest and purest lithium reserves in Africa. For a long time, only foreign players knew this. They quietly studied the land, paid for geological surveys, ran tests, and mapped out lithium hotspots in states like Nasarawa, Kogi, Niger, Kaduna, Ekiti, and Ebonyi. Some of these deposits turned out to be extremely high-grade, the kind of lithium China, the US, and Europe desperately need as the global energy war intensifies. So when a large American mining company arrived in Nigeria expecting business as usual, expecting the standard pattern of negotiations, fast approvals, and long-term control over mineral sites, something unexpected happened. Instead of the usual red carpet, they hit a wall. The Nigerian government rejected the company's request for lithium exploration and extraction rights. The doors were closed, the permits were denied, and for the first time in a long time, Nigeria's response was loud, confident, and unapologetic. Our lithium is for Nigerians. This was not a small administrative decision. This was a major geopolitical statement. Remember, lithium is at the center of a global power struggle. China controls roughly 60% of the world's battery manufacturing. The United States wants to catch up. Europe is desperate not to be left behind. The world's largest companies are in a race to secure long-term lithium supply. What Nigeria has the world needs, but Nigeria made it clear. Foreign companies will not loot its lithium the way they did with oil. The era of signing away resources for pennies is over. Inside Abuja, there were heated discussions. Many U.S. diplomats, business representatives, and lobby groups thought the Nigerian government would eventually soften. After all, Nigeria had a long history of welcoming American companies, so the U.S. delegation arrived confident, maybe even overconfident. They didn't just want collaboration, they wanted control, they wanted ownership, they wanted long-term contracts that would give them monopoly access to Nigeria's most strategic mineral of the future. But this time, something was different. Nigeria had studied the mistakes of the past. The country had seen what happened in the Niger Delta, where foreign oil companies made billions while pollution, poverty, and corruption destroyed local communities. They had seen what happened with solid minerals, where African countries exported raw materials while Western industries made all the profits. So Nigeria refused, and that refusal shook Washington. It wasn't just about the minerals, it was the symbolism. Africa's largest economy was saying no to one of the most powerful countries in the world. Nigeria was refusing to play its usual role of supplier for foreign industries. Instead, it was choosing a new path: local processing, local factories, local jobs, local ownership, and local value creation. Nigeria made one thing clear. If foreign companies want Nigeria's lithium, they must refine it in Nigeria, hire Nigerians, build Nigerian industries, and leave more value inside the country than they take out. This decision didn't come out of nowhere. For years, local miners in Nigeria were digging lithium and selling it at low prices on the black market. Middlemen, many of them linked to foreign buyers, were smuggling raw lithium out of the country. Trucks loaded with Nigerian lithium were leaving the country daily, heading to ports and borders, disappearing into international supply chains. The Nigerian government realized the country was losing billions, so they cracked down, they stopped illegal mining, they tightened regulations, and then they made the biggest move. No foreign company would be allowed to take raw lithium out of Nigeria. This is the moment everything changed. The American company didn't just lose access to a mineral deposit, they lost access to a strategic future. And because Nigeria took this stand, other African nations watched closely. If Nigeria could block a big American company, maybe they could too. Maybe Africa could finally stop exporting raw wealth and start exporting finished products. When news of the rejection reached the US, it caused immediate concern. America is heavily dependent on foreign lithium, especially from countries close to China's orbit. Losing Nigeria meant losing a chance to diversify. Nigerian lithium could have helped America compete in the global battery race. Instead, the US watched that door close and China quietly stepped forward. China offered something America didn't: investment in processing plants, battery factories, training centers, and technology transfer. While the US focused on controlling the supply, China focused on partnership, and Nigeria noticed. Today, Nigeria is planning lithium processing factories. The goal is simple: no more exporting raw minerals. Instead, Nigeria wants to produce battery materials, battery cells, and eventually electric vehicle components. This shift could create thousands of jobs. It could spark new industries. It could put Nigeria into a trillion-dollar global market. It could change the entire structure of the Nigerian economy. This is why this moment is powerful. This is why this moment is emotional. This is why this moment matters. But the story doesn't end here. America reacted. Behind the scenes, meetings were held. Pressure was applied. Diplomats raised concerns about Nigeria's investment climate. Business chambers warned about partner reliability. Analysts wrote reports about China's growing influence. The Western media began framing Nigeria's decision as risky, anti-investor, or geopolitically driven. But what they never mentioned is the truth that every Nigerian already knows. For decades, foreign investment brought money for the elites, not development for ordinary people. This time, Nigerians want something different. They want ownership, they want value, they want control. And the youth of Nigeria, the most educated and connected generation in the country's history, saw this decision as a turning point. For them, lithium is not just a mineral. It is the hope that Nigeria might finally break the cycle of exporting wealth and importing poverty. It is the hope that the country might build real industries, real factories, real centers of innovation. It is the hope that Nigeria might step into the global technological future as a producer, not a spectator. In villages where lithium is being mined, people understand what's at stake. They know what happened the last time foreigners came for resources. They know the promises that were never fulfilled. They know the environmental destruction that was never repaired. They know the communities that were never compensated. This time they don't want their lithium to follow the same path as their oil. They want their children to benefit. They want their communities to thrive. They want Nigeria to rise. This growing awareness, this rise in national consciousness is something the world did not expect. For decades, Africans were told their resources were not valuable until foreigners arrived. They were told the only way to develop was to let others extract, refine, manufacture, and sell back the finished products for 10 times the profit. But today, Africa is waking up. From Zimbabwe to Namibia, from Congo to Ghana, and now Nigeria, countries are blocking raw mineral exports and demanding in-country processing. They have realized that real development comes from industrialization, not extraction. And Nigeria's decision is one of the strongest examples yet. Blocking a U.S. mining company did not just protect lithium. It protected the future. It protected the chance to build something bigger than contracts and royalties. It protected the possibility of a Nigerian battery industry. It protected the vision of a Nigeria where young engineers build energy solutions instead of watching the country import everything from abroad. This is why America is shocked. Not because Nigeria rejected a company, but because Nigeria is rejecting an old system, a system that benefited everyone except Nigerians. This is why the global reaction has been intense. This is why Nigeria's decision has become a symbol across Africa. As you watch this story unfold, there is one truth you must keep in mind. Nigeria is not the same country it was 20 or 30 years ago. Its people are not the same. Its expectations are not the same. Its opportunities are not the same. Nigeria is entering a new era, an era of resource nationalism, strategic independence, and economic self-defense. An era where the country is choosing long-term development over short-term deals. An era where Nigeria decides who gets access to its wealth and on what terms. But with every bold decision comes resistance. The U.S. will not walk away quietly. They will try to renegotiate. They will use diplomacy, incentives, pressure, and partnerships to regain influence. China will continue to push deeper, offering deals that seem more attractive but come with their own risks. Europe will try to enter the competition. Nigeria will face pressure from all sides. The question is, can Nigeria stay firm? Can the country keep control of its lithium without falling into new traps? Can it build the industrial capacity needed to truly benefit from its resources? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. Nigeria has changed the rules, and the world is paying attention. The decision to block a U.S. mining company may seem like a single event, but it is much bigger. It is the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where Nigeria finally recognizes the value of what it has and refuses to give it away cheaply. A chapter where foreign companies learn that the era of easy access to Africa's resources is over. A chapter where Nigerians themselves begin to shape the future of their own economy. This moment will be remembered, not just because Nigeria said no, but because Nigeria said no with confidence, purpose, and vision. And as the world races toward a battery-powered future, Nigeria is positioning itself not as a supplier of raw materials, but as a rising power with a stake in the global technological revolution. This is not just about lithium. It is about dignity. It is about sovereignty. It is about identity. It is about a nation choosing its future instead of having its future chosen for it. And this is why Nigeria's decision sent shockwaves across America and why it is inspiring millions across Africa today. As we reach the end of this story, take a moment to breathe and truly think about what this moment means not just for Nigeria, but for every African country that has ever watched its wealth leave while its people remained in struggle. The decision Nigeria made wasn't simply about blocking one foreign company. It was about rejecting an old way of doing things, a way that kept Africa rich on paper and poor in reality. A way that kept foreigners in power and Africans on the sidelines. A way that made Africa the engine of other nations' prosperity while its own people saw little of that success. What Nigeria did was more than a political move. It was a declaration, a statement that African resources are not souvenirs, not charity, not free opportunities for foreign corporations to exploit. They are the inheritance of the people who live on that land, the villagers who walk those fields, the miners who dig the ground, the young engineers dreaming of a better future, and the children who will grow up in the world we create today. For the first time in a long time, Nigeria stood firm, not out of anger, not out of fear, not out of pride, but out of wisdom, out of a deep understanding that the world is changing fast, and if Nigeria does not protect its future now, it will once again be left behind. This is a moment that carries the weight of history. Because every time a resource-rich African country said yes too quickly, it paid the price years later. We saw it with oil, we saw it with gold, we saw it with diamonds, we saw it with copper and cobalt, we saw it with everything that was taken in raw form, shipped away, refined elsewhere, turned into billion-dollar products, and then sold back to Africa at prices far beyond the reach of the ordinary citizen. This time, Nigeria is choosing differently. And that choice has made the world uncomfortable because a confident Nigeria is powerful. A strategic Nigeria is unpredictable. A self-aware Nigeria is unstoppable. The United States expected negotiations. They expected influence. They expected compliance. But what they met was a country ready to define its own path. What happened in that boardroom was not just a contract disagreement. It was a shift in global power dynamics. It showed that Africa's biggest economy is finally learning the lessons that history has been trying to teach for decades. Nigeria's refusal sent a message to every major power watching. If you want to do business here, you will respect us. You will follow our rules. You will invest in our people. You will build on our soil. You will leave value behind. You will not extract and disappear. That message has already begun to echo across the continent, and for millions of Nigerians from the bustling streets of Lagos to the quiet mining towns of Nasarawa, this moment touches something deep inside. It feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels like hope. It feels like the beginning of a future where the narrative finally changes. Because Nigeria is more than its problems. It is more than its politics. It is more than corruption, hardship, or struggle. Nigeria is a nation of thinkers, builders, dreamers, innovators. Nigeria is home to one of the youngest and most ambitious populations on earth. If there is any country capable of standing up and rewriting its own story, it is Nigeria. So as we close this chapter, remember this: the fight for resources is the fight for the future. The fight for lithium is the fight for relevance in a rapidly changing world. The fight for ownership is the fight for dignity and identity. And Nigeria, for the first time in a long time, is fighting with clarity. This decision will not solve all problems. It will not magically fix the economy. It will not remove every challenge ahead. But it is a bold step toward a different kind of tomorrow. A tomorrow where Nigeria is not just a supplier of raw materials but a producer of value. A tomorrow where young Nigerians don't have to leave their country to find opportunity. A tomorrow where the benefits of natural wealth finally remain at home. The world is watching Nigeria, and for once it is watching with surprise and maybe even respect. So as this story closes and another begins, one truth stands above all. Nigeria has taken control of its future, and once a nation does that, there is no turning back.